All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it is time to talk written assignment number 2. We have done a written assignment number 1 already. That is the assignment that focuses on the 8 key course concepts, right? We have either done one on collectivism or individualism. Now we move on to assignment number 2. Assignment number 2 at the 30-2 level involves basically you analyzing 3 sources and telling me what they suggest is the role of government in society. And guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, when it comes to this assignment, generally you have one of 2 sort of philosophies about the role of government in society. If you're more of a leftist individual, you believe that the role of government, right? You're more collectivist, more socialist. You believe the role of government is to cure the ills of society. And modern liberals believe the same thing as well. So people on the left believe that it's the government's job to step up and help individuals in their time of need, to make life better for people, to address issues like poverty or sexism, racism, whatever it happens to be, right? Where there's problems, it's government's job to step in and do something about it. Now, alternatively, if you're on the right side, I don't know if when you're watching me if that's the right to you or not, but if you're on the right side of the spectrum, then you believe that government's role should be small, right? You're a neoconservative. You believe that government should essentially only protect life, liberty, and property. Otherwise, their job is to stay out of our lives. So if people are poor, instead of government stepping up and doing something about it, well, then it's your job as an individual to dig yourself up out of poverty. There's an old saying that goes, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, right? That's what people on the right believe, right? Government should be minimal, protect those fundamental unalienable rights that John Locke talks about of life, liberty, property. Otherwise, it should stay out of our lives. So written assignment number 2 always consists of 3 sources, and your job is to analyze each of the 3 sources and then give me what the source suggests is the role of government in society. So that right there is 3 paragraphs, right? And when you analyze the source, you're going to give me a bit of background on it, right? These will be sources that you should be able to discuss because they'll be based upon things that we have talked about or things that you should know about from previous social experience. So you do that, right? And you pump out 3 paragraphs there. And then after that, you do a 4th paragraph on what you believe the role of government should be considering the sources. So on the screen, right, we have the following box, right? We have the following box right here where it says your task, answer the following. You're always going to get a box like that on the assignment. So it says, what does each of the 3 sources presented on pages 1 and 2 communicate about the role of government in society? So you're going to have a statement, and I'll show you how to do this in a subsequent video, where after you analyze the source, give me some understanding, right? Demonstrate some understanding what's going on in the source. Then what you're going to say is, within source 1, it is suggested that the role of government is, and then you tell me, right? And that's pretty much it for the first 3 paragraphs. It's not overly difficult. Now, note, it also says, and considering the sources presented on pages 1 and 2, what do you think should be the role of government in society? Now, this is where your opinion on the role of government will be factored in. And this is where you got to think, okay, am I more of a leftist, collectivist, socialist, modern liberal? Or am I more of a rightist, classical liberal, neoconservative who believes in small government? Now, we'll get to that here in a second. Now, if we continue with the instructions, it says, write a response in which you must. First bullet says, interpret each source to identify what the source tells about the role of government in society, right? What does the source suggest is the role of government in society? Now, you do that for each of the sources. Again, that's going to create 3 paragraphs. After that, second bullet says, explain and defend your position on what the role of government in society should be. This is where you use terms like I believe, I think, the government should, right? Those are value statements. When you give what you believe, that's not according to what the source says. That's what you think, right? When you say the government should, that's a value statement. That tells me that you're now giving your opinion. So you're going to explain and defend your position on what the role of government in society should be. And you must make sure that you touch upon, in your fourth paragraph, at least one of the sources. Ideally, you'll talk about all three, but you only need to talk about one. And then third bullet says, support your interpretations and position by referring to the sources and to your understanding of social studies. So if there's evidence that you can bring in to further your position, if there's evidence that you can bring in to further your demonstrated understanding of the relevant social studies in the source, then that is what you do. Okay, that is what you do. And again, we'll do a paragraph together to demonstrate how to actually do this. All right, so the process. The first point there, right, first check mark right here says, find if the topic is role of the individual or role of government. I'm telling you guys right now, for you, it will be role of government, okay? Now, well, let's just move down to the next check mark. It says, remember, if the topic is role of government, the sources will generally fall into one of two opposite ideals. So it's a good idea, folks, to understand what the left believes about the role of government and the right believes. And that is what we have right here in this box on the page. So the left believes in collectivism. It believes in the greater good. It believes the group is more important than the individual. On the left, we also have people who identify as liberals, right? That believe that change is desirable and good, right? Liberals see the status quo as imperfect, and as a result, they want to change the way the world is. On the left, we also find modern liberalism or modern liberals. They believe the government has a role to provide for the people. They believe that the government has a role to alleviate problems in society. And then finally, on the left, we find socialism, right? People on the left who are socialists believe in the creation of equality in society. How do we do that? Well, you should know this. Socialists, modern liberals, people on the left believe that equality is created through redistribution of wealth. We take from the rich, we give to the poor in the form of social programs, and that lifts them up and gets rid of that giant gap between those who are up here and those who are down here, right? They try to even things out more. All right, so that's the left, and you should be aware of that. Now, on the right, you might get a source that believes that individuals should do it on their own, right? If you're poor, it's your fault, and you need to dig yourself up out of that hole. So on the right, we find individualism, right? They don't think that the group is as important as the individual. Individuals have rights, they have freedoms, they should be allowed to pursue them. On the right, we find the conservative, and instead of liking change and finding the status quo imperfect like a liberal does, they dislike change. They believe that the status quo should be maintained and society should keep on keeping on the way that it always has, the way that it is right now. Alternatively, we also find on the right the neoconservative, right? The new age conservative. That's what the prefix neo means, and we've talked about this before. The neocon believes that the role of government should be small, not large like a modern liberal, but small. And that government's job is to protect only life, liberty, property. Otherwise, government should butt out of our lives. And then also on the right, we find the capitalist, right? And this, of course, is opposite to the socialist or the communist. The capitalist believes that government's role in the economy should be teeny weeny, right? Or ideally non-existent as per the doctrine of Adam Smith. Capitalists believe that inequality is normal, natural, and to be honest, they actually think it is a good thing. They believe that economic inequality is a motivator for people to not be poor, to work hard and become a better version of themselves. So make sure, guys, you understand what the left and the right believes. All right, now, moving down some more here. Next check mark says, writing on the source booklet, break each source down independently by doing the following. So first bullet says, consider, what is the source about? When you get an individual source, try to understand the perspective that we see in that source. Is it from a leftist or a rightist perspective? Is it more socialist? Is it more capitalist? Is it more modern liberal? Is it more neoconservative? So actually physically write that stuff down. What is the source telling you? What is it suggesting that the role of government should be? Is there an ideology prevalent in the source? If there is, write it down, right? Get it down. And what other ideas might be associated with the beliefs or the perspective in the source, right? So anything that pops into your mind, you should get down. Now it says record theory or individuals associated with the perspective or important time periods / events going on surrounding the source. So sometimes, guys, when you get sources, there might be something you're like, oh, that source is just like this that we've spoken about in social studies, or, oh yeah, that relates to this idea in social studies. Jot that stuff down, because this all becomes evidence that you then use when you actually type your source analysis for the individual sources, right? This all becomes intellectual ammunition to fight this battle. Now, third bullet says, consider any possible theory or social studies content that helps explain the source, but be careful not to get bogged down in extraneous details. Again, guys, you want to demonstrate that you understand a broader, more general picture, right? The source is going to be about something very, very specific, but if you can relate it to grander understandings of social studies, then make sure you do that. And again, when we go through an example source, you'll see how I do this. And then fourth bullet says, remember, if it's a political cartoon rather than just a photo or a graph or a propaganda poster, a painting, something like that, if it's a political cartoon, it is satirical. And remember, guys, satire is where we use humor or irony to make a serious point about something, right? If it's a picture, try to understand why perhaps the photographer took that picture. Is it to expose a problem? Is it to shock you? Is it to demonstrate bias? You got to try to think a little bit deeper than just be like, oh yeah, that's just a picture of a person. You know what I mean? You got to try to go deeper. Why did the photographer take that picture? All right. Next check mark. So once you've completed the above planning on the source booklet, right? In this case of what we're doing now, I would write these things down on an actual sheet of paper, right? Source 1, jot all your ideas down. Source 2, jot all your ideas down. Same thing. Source 3, jot all your ideas down. Now it says, once you've completed the above planning on the source booklet, record the information in paragraph form based upon the things you have written down about the source, right? Again, we write stuff down because that becomes then what we type when it comes to the actual source analysis paragraphs. Now, the last check mark on this page says, be absolutely sure that once you relay what is going on in the source, you clearly and in significant depth explain what the source says about the role of, in this case, it will be government in society, right? Make sure you tell me what the source says about the role of government in society. Don't worry about this role of individual stuff. We're not doing that. We're doing role of government. So I want you in your analysis of each paragraph to make sure you have a very clearly articulated statement. Within source 1, it is suggested that the role of government is meh. Right? And you tell me, same thing for source 2. Within source 2, it is suggested that the role of government is and you tell me, same thing for source 3. Okay, I want to make sure you guys are absolutely clear about this. If you don't do that, you are not doing the assignment, and make sure you're doing what is asked. If you want to fail, don't do what's asked. If you want to pass, do what's being asked of you, okay? Now it says this needs to be more than one sentence. Okay, so at that point now, right, we repeat this for source 1, source 2, source 3. Then what we need to do, guys, is, and it says, and then, this is what people always forget, you must, based on the sources, explain what you believe is the role of government in society. So for that fourth paragraph, you're going to start it with something like, when it comes to the role of the government in society, I believe. And then you're going to give a statement on what you believe. And I believe blah, 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 because, sorry, I just hit the mic. I believe, and then you're going to justify it. You're going to substantiate it. You're going to tell me why you believe what you believe. You want to do on this assignment, you have to do that. So it says, you must, based on the sources, explain what you believe is the role of government in society. Now it says you technically only need, and guys, make sure you consider the sources, right? If we go back up to the top with that box, it says, considering the sources, what do you think is the role of government in society? So if there's a source that you absolutely disagree with, then you tell me why, right? You tell me why. When it comes to source 2, I disagree with what it suggests is the role of government in society. This is because, and you justify it, right? Everything you say needs to be justified in this assignment. You need to give me why you believe what you believe. So you technically only need to write or touch upon one of the sources, but better fourth paragraphs incorporate all three sources. When you tell me what you believe and you go in there and you agree or disagree with source 1, source 2, source 3, you're going to end up having a nice in-depth fourth paragraph. Now it says this paragraph needs to be in some significant depth. It's worth 40% of this assignment. So respect the fact and ensure that you give it some serious explanation. Now it says, when it comes to the role of government in society, students who do well on this category do the following. They identify their ideological perspective in the fourth paragraph. They discuss, based on your ideological perspective, what you believe the role of government should be. And in this, you must consider the sources, and you discuss what you believe the government should be and why, right? Make sure you're getting into the why. All right, with that being said here, folks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, in the next module, put up a paragraph that has been used by the Alberta government, and then I'll show you how to actually write a analysis paragraph for this particular assignment. All right, so peace. Make sure you watch all the videos, or you're going to be like a person all alone in the woods and bears are approaching and you're going to get eaten. Later, guys. Peace. Love you.